We're talking about Waterworld? Why yes, we are talking about Waterworld. By the graces of all of the gods that came to get this movie afloat, yes, pun intended, Waterworld has in fact made it into the collection of movies I get to have in my house for Flashback Films and talk about on this channel. I have many mixed feelings about this film. I know the general consensus of this film is that it sucks eggs. I'm not gonna lie. Some of it sucks eggs. Some of it is not as bad as a lot of the viewers of this film have made it out to be. This was my first time watching it all the way through. I've seen bits and pieces over the years. Never had an interest in watching it, but again, this series kind of dictates what I get to watch and talk about. So here we are. But before I get into all of the things that I have to say, let's go ahead and hit those box office stats and do a quick recap of the film. With a budget of $175 million, Waterworld generated an overall domestic revenue of $88,246,220 at the box office. Pretty rough, I'm not gonna lie, though it did end up making somewhat of a profit on a global scale. While this was July 1995's highest-grossing film overall, it was beat out in monthly earnings by Apollo 13. Apollo 13 pulled in a whopping $129,633,265, while Waterworld only managed to net $18,353,416, most likely due to its release date on July 28th, which only gave it 4 days in theaters that month to get us these stats. Which is why I started the series in the first place. Even though Apollo 13 was released in June, it kicked ass in July. And even though Waterworld didn't do too hot in July when it was released, it still took the #1 spot overall. But will a quick Google search tell you that? I think not. If you haven't seen Waterworld, or it's been a while since you have, the movie follows the mariner on his journey in a world flooded by water after the ice caps have melted. With no land in existence, mankind has taken to ships, scrap metal atolls, and all kinds of man-made vessels in between in order to survive. Think Mad Max, but on the ocean. Though the mariner is a loner by choice, he ends up taking aboard a woman and young girl, Helen and Enola respectively, after they're threatened by the evil deacon who believes Enola holds the key to finding a place called Dryland.
Nothing's free in Waterworld!
The version I watched of this movie is the 2-hour and 16-minute version. Not the extended cut. And for those 2 hours and 16 minutes, I honestly couldn't decide whether I just flat out disliked it or didn't think it was bad as everyone said it was. I was expecting a lot worse, honestly. I'd seen, like I said, a couple of scenes from this film, not enough to get a good grasp of the vibe, the tone, the movie. And yeah, I'm still very mixed feelings about it because it was rough. It was rough, but it wasn't entirely the worst. This movie has always been presented as a massive failure to me, whether I'm talking to someone who's seen it before or I see something about it on the internet. And after doing a little bit of research on this film, it really did seem like it was doomed to fail. This film underwent 36 different drafts, 36 different ways this could have gone, with 6 different writers, where they ultimately called Joss Whedon to help in Act 3, which was basically the giant climactic scene aboard Deacon's giant ship called the D's. Insert your D's nuts jokes here. I've been making them in my head all film long. Kevin Costner ended up calling up Steven Spielberg for some notes on how to film such a grand epic over the water since he'd previously done Jaws. And the one thing Spielberg told them not to do, they did. It was don't shoot on open water. And what the hell did they do? They shot it in open water. The thing had to shut down multiple times because of hurricane alerts. It was supposed to be a 55-day shoot, which ended up turning into over 155 days of shooting over the open water because of just everything that was going wrong. The 2 female leads, Jean Triplehorn and Tina Majorino, they almost drowned the very first day on set because whenever they sunk one of the boats, they ended up getting pulled down with it. It was the most expensive movie ever shot prior to the Titanic, which was made 2 years later. And of course, naturally, Like everything that could go wrong did go wrong. People were getting seasick all the time because, again, open water, so they ended up consuming a gazillion ginger snaps because apparently ginger snaps helped with seasickness. Kevin Costner ended up injuring his feet quite a bit because he runs around barefoot for the vast majority of the film. And like, yes, he did have moleskin stuck to his feet, but again, he was just stubbing his toes left and right on the set. They pulled in a whole bunch of scrap metal from, I think, like all of the scrap metal on from Hawaii, and then they ended up shipping more scrap metal to build the atolls, which were giant civilizations in the middle of open water. They ended up having to haul, it took hours for them to haul the atolls, the boats, everything onto the open water. So by the time they were like ready to get set up and everything, they could have been shut down by the hurricane alerts, or the weather was bad, or you name it. Again, don't do it on open water. They did it on open water. I definitely wondered about the controlled versus open water environment a couple of times in the film, because at that point in the 90s, the green screen was still pretty miss as far as hit and miss goes. You can see the edges, you can see the green screen pretty damn easily, and I couldn't see any of the telltale signs, the blurriness, okay, that's hyperpigmented compared to the realistic pigmentation of the people kind of thing, the background versus the foreground. It was all on open water. And I just kept thinking how difficult it must have been. I had no idea until I did my research afterwards. The music was great. Like it had that giant, epic, sweeping fantasy feel to it, which was great for a lot of the parts, but it was also used extremely wrong as well. For the action scenes, it worked, period, right? It works in high-speed chases, explosions, all of the boats crashing into one another. Oh my gosh, let's run away, kind of, it works. But then, for example, there's a scene where Enola, the young girl, is getting carted off by the villains, the smokers, pirates that would leave things going up in smoke, led by Deacon. She's literally getting yeeted off the screen by these guys, like screaming and trying to get back to both Helen and the Mariner. But then you have the underwater parts of that scene where Helen and the Mariner are having their first pseudo kiss. The Mariner can breathe underwater because of a mutation. He's got gills, so he's essentially breathing for her underwater as they're setting fire to their ship and wreaking havoc above. And so it's supposed to be the sweet, touching flute solo playing as they're having this kiss, but then they're also playing that as the girl is getting dragged off the screen, and it was like, wait, hold on, no. No, now's not the time for that. It doesn't work. Like, oh yeah, nothing's wrong. We're just possibly never going to see her again, but let's have this kiss. That's not really a kiss. It's just for life-saving purposes. But of course it's the 90s, so we're going to write it off as a kiss as well. It didn't work. I was like, what the hell? It happened a couple of times, 2 or 3 at the most, but whenever it did happen, it made me stop to think like, okay, hold on. the tonal shift, it's clashing. Yeah, it just didn't work. For the most part, you could kind of let it go. Just expect the 90s epic fantasy kind of feelies. You got it. Honestly, the concept of the world was really cool too. Like, I could see what they wanted to do. It really, again, I dropped Mad Max earlier, and that's half of the feel. It seemed like they wanted to do just this open water fantasy, but with Mad Max. They couldn't really figure out how to make it work entirely. I could see the direction they wanted it to go, they just couldn't nail it. The concept of Waterworld itself was pretty damn cool. Like, the ice caps have melted, the world has been flooded, we're trying to survive. That's pretty nifty. We're trading things like dirt, like Jack Sparrow, I've got a jar of dirt. Well, they would be like, Jack Sparrow, give me the dirt, I will pay whatever the heck you want for it. He's growing a bush of limes on his boat at the beginning of the film. Like, obviously you want to prevent scurvy whenever it's just water and it's very hard to grow things without soil, right? So people are seeing these things and they're like, oh my God, I want soil to grow tomato plants. Also something he trades for in the film. The limes, which ended up getting stolen from him in the beginning as well. But just fresh water, fresh food, people are like, yes, I want that shit. I love that they call pure water just hydro, drinkable water hydro, because there's water all around you, right? But we want the hydro that you can consume and not get scurvy and further give yourself dehydration and all that good stuff on the open water. I wish they'd expanded a little bit more about that. Like maybe we got to see a couple more of the atolls, what they're called, the communities on the water. We really only got to see one at the very beginning where he trades for the tomato plant. We get to see that there are some other drifters in the water, like the Mariner is. There's a trading code that they abide by. Really, we get the lime thief. And then we also get a crazy guy midway through, but there's not a lot of people, which I guess makes sense. I just wish that there were for the development of the world some more. Where we get into the Mad Max stuff really is with Deacon and the smokers, where the jet skis are popping up out of the water. They have boats that are attached to a ramp. That way the boats and water skiers can go off the ramp over the walls to the atoll to get inside and raid the place and leave it in ashes, right? And of course their faces are painted up like the Mad Max guys. They're all like grimed up, and they're all screaming, hooting, hollering as they're just firing machine guns into the walls. It really did have that Mad Max feel, and they were very silly. The smokers and Deacon were definitely the silliest faction or over-exaggerated group in the film compared to the drifters, the Mariner, the people at the atoll. So that was kind of a weird shift as well. The Mad Max theme continues where we get onto the D's, the giant ship that belongs to Deacon and the smokers, where they're literally rationing oil to power their boats, their jet skis, and of course they have like a car inside to drive through the boat. There's no need for a super jacked up car. They could just walk through, but whatever. I digress. There's literal trash fires in some of the scenes. People are just, it looks like a rager. It just, like, what is this? It just looks like the trashy part of the city was stuck into a boat with a lot of dumpster fires going on for no apparent reason. So you've basically got the Waterworld feel, the fantasy feel, and then the Mad Max on ice, on water feel. So it just kind of clashed in tone. Again, I could see where they wanted to go, and I feel like maybe if this movie was remade today, it could have blended the two tones more harmoniously. And normally I'm not really a fan for remakes, but I feel like this one actually could benefit from a remake, just because with all of the underwater technology that we have nowadays, you could do a lot more with Waterworld. You could do so much more with Waterworld. There's a scene where Kevin Costner, the Mariner, is hanging from the back of his boat, and he ends up luring in this giant sea monster, and, you know, which he ends up taking down in about 5 seconds flat and grilling up on the boat. I think it would be cool to see more of that. But again, limited technology and resources, it made sense that there wasn't more of that. It was just everything sitting on top of the water. I would have liked to see more of that, and I would have liked to see more underwater as well. I would have been okay with maybe seeing a little bit less of the smokers, but that's just me personally. The relationship pacing also sucked. So between the tone and the relationship pacing, that's kind of where I become a stickler, and I'm like, yeah, it wasn't the best. And I say the relationship pacing because you're stuck on board with the Mariner, with Helen, with Enola for a good portion of the film, right? The Mariner is very abrasive. He's supposed to be very abrasive in the film. He's a loner. Again, he's a mutant. He has gills, he has webbed feet, and people do not take kindly to mutants. Why? They never really elaborated on that too much, except for that he was an abomination. Again, more of the world building that I would have liked to see, like why are mutants looked down upon? Why are mutos looked down upon? Because I think that it would have been really beneficial to have a mutant with you. If they can dive and breathe underwater, they can bring up stuff much like the Mariner did to help your civilization grow. I don't know, I feel like that was foresight not there. I feel like the foresight was not there, but I guess people balk and reject what they don't know, so I guess we can use that as an explanation as to why people don't like it. So the Mariner is used to being alone, and then after going to trade with one of the atolls where Helen and Enola are, you know, shit hits the fan. It ends up getting blown up by the smokers, and Helen and Enola, because they help the Mariner escape, he allows them to come on board. But when they're on board, he is constantly threatening them. He like to throw them over the edge. He's constantly threatening to kill them. Or just like very rude to them. And I get it. I do to a certain degree, but it was still a little bit too abrasive. But Helen and Enola also aren't entirely helping their cases either. Helen is just very confrontational all the time, which I kind of get. I would be a little bit hesitant to mess with the Mariner. At the same time, she is constantly poking the bear. If my survival and my child's survival was at stake, I would be doing what I needed to make sure we were good. It seemed like all or nothing with her. It really seemed like all or nothing with her. At one point, she's, again, willing to do whatever. And then in the next moment, for example, the smokers find their vessel. They find the boat on open water. The Mariner goes under the deck to go grab some stuff. I would have thought maybe they're going under the deck to go get something to fight off the smokers instead of, oh, he just abandoned us, he's a coward. And then she goes and proceeds to ruin quite a bit of the Mariner's boat, which in turn pisses him off to like the highest degree because she's messing with stuff that she doesn't know how to handle. I probably would have gone under deck as well and have been like, dude, what can I do? To which in those high stakes moments, he does tell them, go do this, go do that, right? Because he knows where stuff is on board his ship. They don't, right? I get the whole, don't touch my shit. You don't know where anything is. I will tell you what I need. I get that, especially in high stakes situations. But Helen is extremely confrontational. And then whenever it backfires, she's like, oh, I'm so sorry, but doesn't learn from that and continues to be extremely confrontational. Enola also just doesn't shut up. She does not know when to shut up. He didn't ask for your opinion, and you know that your opinions will literally get you thrown over the edge of the boat. He's literally done that to you, kind of thing. He has threatened to kill you, he's threatened to throw you over the boat, and he's acted on that. He's just hyper aggressive. Stop it. Stop it, stop it, stop it. It was excellent at fucking around and finding out. Both of them were, but Enola, if she could just stop it, think before she said anything, it would have helped her case a lot. I'm just thinking from a survival perspective. Like, you are in the middle of literally nowhere. Literally nowhere. The only thing for miles is this boat. It is your only means of survival. Why are you pissing off the one guy that has proved to be volatile and not the best at taking care of you? And by that, I mean he's constantly throwing you guys around and shoving you off to the side and just being a jackass. Like, why are you poking the bear? Of course, we do, at some point along the way, become friends. He develops a soft spot for Enola, so whenever she finally does end up getting kidnapped by Deacon, because plot, he single-handedly goes off after her without Helen. And of course, we do have to have like a canoodling scene with Helen at the worst time, by the way. This kind of goes with the horribly paced, horrible relationship pacing. The scene where, again, the flute scene, where Enola is getting dragged off the scene and their boat is in ruins. They literally come up, they're sitting there on the burning boat, and instead of trying to figure out any way possible to make sure that the boat doesn't sink further or that they can get to safety, do something, anything. Now is the time to engage in the canoodling. I'm like, wait, really? Your daughter, your adopted daughter just got taken away. Every second counts because you don't know if they're gonna kill her. I mean, I guess technically you know that they're not going to kill her, technically, because she, quote unquote, has the map to the dry lands. But you're still like, yep, now the time we're gonna mac out, canoodle, all that good stuff on the burning, charred boat instead of trying to figure out any way to go after her. I'm like, what, why? What, hold on, every second counts, bruh. Like, why are we doing this right now? And of course, there's no real turning point for their relationship, except for after they both get thrown off the boat. He throws Enola off the boat. Helen jumps in after her screaming, she can't swim! And only then does he turn the boat back around because he feels bad because he's never met someone that couldn't swim before. And then the following scene is Helen waking up and he's teaching her how to swim. And it is this far too long scene of just her watching them with, again, the 90s mood music over the scene of him teaching Enola how to swim under the water, on top of the water. Oh my gosh, there's sparkly hair flips in the water. Like, what is going on? There's no real maturing of the relationship. It's just kind of like, oh, he's so cool because he's teaching my adopted daughter how to swim. And then, of course, only after the canoodling on the decrepit boat, right? The blown up boat, the burned down boat, after her adopted daughter is gone, after the canoodling, do we have any real conversation? And then he abruptly leaves to go get Enola. I'm like, okay, what? We went from super hyper aggressive, abrasive, volatile, you don't know what he's going to do next, which kind of had me on edge because I'm like, I don't think they're going to die, but they're gonna have a lot of brain damage with the whole throwing them overboard and shoving them into like parts of the boat, but Jesus. And then later on, he does trade a bunch of scrap paper for Helen. Like, there's a trader in the water. He's like, I've got paper. Paper's super rare. We're not going to talk about how everyone in the smokers is literally throwing packs of cigarettes around. How we have those after hundreds of years, after the world has been submerged in water, I don't know. Forget about that for a second. Paper is super rare. Let me have a go with your woman for half an hour. Unfortunately for Helen, the mariner's like, nah, man, I take it back. You don't get to, before anything can happen. But it was still like, really? And then suddenly everything's okay because we're teaching them how to swim. That's a pretty toxic relationship. Screw you, dude. But yeah, that's as much as I'm gonna say about that. There were just, again, with the cigarettes and the paper, there were just also some inconsistencies that you kind of have to look over to keep going with the film. At the beginning, Enola likes to color, right? She likes to draw. She draws this horse, and Helen's like, what is that? And the guy that's looking at her paper is like, I don't know, but she's seen it. Like, they don't know what a horse is. And yet at the end, one of the guys on the D's is literally named Horse. They're literally calling out for Horse. Like, Horse, where are you? Oh my God, I found Horse. He's unalive. So do we or don't we know what a horse is? Do the smokers? Do the people on the D's, do they know what a horse is and nobody else knows what a horse is? Is that why we're following Deacon? Because you get the knowledge of the horse? I don't know. It seems we get to pick and choose what these people believe, right? I don't know. That one stood out to me the most, and I can't let it go for the life of me. I know I should, okay? I know. And it is possible that one group of people know what a horse is and the other one doesn't. At the same time, I also don't believe that. I don't know. It was both okay, and then it just was not. I liked the world. I think I liked the world. I liked the Waterworld, part of Waterworld. I wasn't as excited about the Mad Max feels on the D's. The only thing I liked about the D's was my childish joke cracking. That was it. Yeah, every time we were on the D's, I was like, okay, let's go back to the Mariner and Helen and Enola. Or do I want to go back to the Mariner? Because I don't really like the Mariner. I also wouldn't want to be stuck around Helen. And Enola just is constantly trying to get herself into trouble, it seems. Again, the open water part was fun. Didn't really like the people. I actually thought the silliness of the smokers wasn't the best. And yet I still kind of just preferred the dumb villains being dumb villains to the main cast. Liked the location of the water, didn't like the people, didn't like the location of the D's, was okay with just watching dumb villains being dumb villains. Did I hate the movie? No. I think it is absolutely overhated. Absolutely overhated. It is one of those movies where if it came on the television and there was nothing else on, yeah, I would probably leave the television on. At the same time, if there was anything else on, I would be switching it to that. Now with streaming services, we don't have to worry about that, right? But you know, in the 90s and stuff, I would leave it on. So tell me what you guys think in the comments. Do you also think that it wasn't entirely that bad, or no, it was the worst movie to have ever been made? Let me know. Love to hear your thoughts. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you next time in 2005.